Okay, students, next test is the iodine test for our carbohydrates, and we're going to be doing this on a spot plate so that we can see the dark color that should happen for us with iodine and starch. So I'm going to start off by placing a couple of drops of each sample into the spot plates that I have labeled so far, and we're going to be using water again as our blank. So let me grab my pipette for water and place down a couple drops. So I'm just going to do 2 drops of each sample here. So we got 2 for water. We're going to do 2 drops of starch. Okay. Next up, we've got sucrose. And I'm going to put my pipette for sucrose. Okay, so there's my sucrose. Alright, lactose is my next sample. Okay. Glucose next. Okay, so 2 drops of glucose. And lastly, I've got fructose. So once I get 2 drops into each spot for the appropriate compound, okay, I'm going to now add my iodine solution. So let me start off with my iodine solution. Okay, so this is a mixture of both potassium iodide and elemental iodine, so I2. And so I'm going to go ahead and add a drop of this to each sample. Okay, we're going to let them sit for a quick second. And I'm going to ask Lee to zoom in slightly with all of the samples. And if you notice, you might be able to see a couple of little solid black flecks starting to form in the starch. Let's see if we can get some. There we go. That's a nice zoom in right there. And just to enhance the color change, I'm going to go ahead and add an extra drop of iodine to each sample. Okay, so now each little spot plate has 2 drops of iodine and 2 drops of the labeled sample there. And again, if you notice, the starch sample is much, much darker and has little flecks of black in it that the other samples do not show. Okay, so okay, so this has been the iodine test for carbohydrates. Alright students, next test we're doing for carbohydrates is the hydrolysis test. Now, typically you would only perform this test with sucrose and starch because they are for sure either disaccharides or polysaccharides. But in this case, we're going to do it for every sample because you don't know what's your unknown. So you will need to use this test to help you determine what's your unknown sample. Okay, so for my test tubes here in the red test tube rack, I will add 3 milliliters of the appropriate sample plus acid. For the test tubes on the green test tube rack, I will add the 3 milliliters of sample plus water. Okay, so for one side we're adding acid for hydrolysis, and on the other side we're just adding water. Okay, so let me start by let's go in alphabetical order. We're going to start off with fructose, and I'm going to measure 3 milliliters into both test tubes here. So let me grab my pipette. So that's 2 milliliters so far.
Professor, can you give me 1 second?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I've measured 3 milliliters of glucose into both test tubes as well. Okay, so far we've got fructose and glucose set up. We're going to do lactose next. Okay, and again, I'm doing 3 milliliters into each test tube. 2. Next up, we'll go for starch. Okay, and last sample will be for sucrose. So there's 2 milliliters, 3. Okay, so we have our all of our sugars in our test tubes here. All right, and like I mentioned, for these test tubes, we're going to go ahead and add some acid. So let me grab my hydrochloric acid here, and I have a 2.5 molar solution of hydrochloric acid. This is similar to 10% weight per weight, and let me go ahead and count about 20 drops. Okay, so each of these have had some acid added to them. I'm going to go ahead and get these into the boiling water bath, and in the meantime, I will add my water drops that I need to my other samples. So I'm going to go ahead and drop these into the boiling water bath. Alright, so I'm going to put this to the side. Now, using my bottle of deionized water and a pipette, I'm going to go ahead and add some water to my samples that are in my green test tube rack. So I'll add 20 drops of water in place of acid. Okay, and we all hopefully know that water is not that great of an acid. Okay, so each of those has 20 drops of water, and I'm going to go ahead and create a second water bath so we can get this set up and boiling.
Well,